Good evening and welcome to the August 2026 session of LASO, Learning About Stamps Online. Our speaker this evening is Jeffrey Shapiro. He has collected stamps and postal history for 60 years. Over the years, Jeff has joined a number of philatelic clubs, including the Collectors Club of New York and the Collectors Club of Chicago. He was also appointed vice president of the United States Stamp Society and was elected vice president of the American Philatelic Society, serving from 2016 to 2022. He is also a member of four regional Boston, Massachusetts stamp clubs. For years, Jeff has been acknowledged as an authority for modern U.S. postal history, specifically the 1938 presidential series, affectionately known as the Prexies. 10 years ago, he expanded his interest to include World War II postal history. Further research sent him to discover the 1919 through 1923 German inflation period, which many historians believe sowed the seeds for the beginning of the Second World War. What resulted was two multi-frame exhibits showing how the German post office dealt with an out-of-control inflation which devastated the nation. In addition, Jeff was asked to publish a manuscript documenting the inflation, which is available through Amazon. So with that, Jeff, it is all yours.
Thank you very much. What I'm going to talk tonight is a one-frame exhibit that I put together about 10 years ago called From Stability to Chaos. And I've got about 20 scans which will go along with that. I look forward to your questions and comments, but please, if you could wait till the end of my talk, and I will tell all. All right. If we could begin the scans, I'll begin the talk. Ahmed?
Give me 1 second. I'll bring this up. I'm sorry, I should have put it up earlier.
No problem. Well, let me, before we talk, let me just tell you a little bit about the German, my German talk. It's basically a talk on German foreign postcard rates from 1879 to 1924. The stability was the 4 decades that the German post office was able to keep the rate at 10 pfennigs, or 0.10 marks. But after Germany lost the war, the chaos started. Small at first, but then because of the Weimar Republic's policy of printing money rather than backing their currency with gold or anything else, this was the recipe for inflation. Okay, next. Okay. Some of these early ones, they're going to have 3 cards on them, so we'll keep Ahmed busy. But what I tried to do for the first couple frames is to show you during the stability some interesting destinations. And the first one is a card, again, with 10 pfennigs on it, or 0.10 marks, to Russian-occupied Poland, which is where my family is from. And that's from 1877. The second card is from a German Templar colony, a religious colony in Palestine, Again, you don't see many of these. I was lucky to find that. Uh, and the last one is to Turkish occupied Macedonia, which is now part of Greece from 1900. All again, uh, uh, cranked with the .10 mark or pfennig. Okay. Three more cards uh, from this, again, to unusual destinations from Germany. This one, 1901 to Australia. The next one to the Gold Coast in Africa in 1902. And the last one to the Canary Islands in 1907. Again, all over the world, but with the 1.0 mark. This is a nice thing about at least the German rate system. The book that I use, and again, I recommend it, is The Postal Rates of Germany by Manchester. Some of you may know him, her, I should say, Diana Manchester from the German Philatelic Society. The great thing about this, because I see a lot of people who go to stamp shows looking for material, and they're carrying volumes for reference that have 100 or 200 pages. God bless Diana Manchester's reference book has 12 pages. So when I'd rather get my bag filled with cards rather than reference material. All right, back to stability. We are still in stability. Here is a card that for the 10 Phoenix did a lot of traveling to Singapore and then redirected to Burma in 1910. Next one is Russian Turkestan in 1911. And finally, a card that went to South America, first to Brazil, and then onward to Argentina. Any questions about the stability? Because now we're going to enter into the inflation period, and what you're going to see is the German post office's attempts to corral this inflation. And the early inflation is not that easy to find because it's not as sexy as the later inflation that has lots of zeros and everything else. But half the fun of doing something like this, as most of you probably know, is the hunt. And you know us guys, we are hunter-gatherers. So the next is my hunter-gatherer work for the last about 12 years, looking for inflation material, but specifically postcards going international.
Jeffrey,
Okay. Yes.
Jeffrey, before we move on, this is Frederick.
Yes.
The card that started at Singapore and then went on looked like it went through Bangkok, and which is Thailand, and then did it end up in Burma?
Yes. Yes, it did. Thank you for noticing that. Thank you.
It was in red ink. It was hard to miss.
Well, I'm colorblind, so thank you for the help of my friends. Okay, the beginning of the inflation, and there is a lot of people that argue about this, but since this is my talk, I have put the beginning of the German inflation at the end of World War One, and in this case, it's the first rate increase since 1875, which happened in October 1919. And here is a card uh, with the rate of 0.15 pfennigs or marks or 15 pfennigs, which was in effect October 1919 to May 1920. And this is going to the Hawaiian Islands, territory of the United States. Okay, again, with the new rate. Uh, the rate went up because the League of Nations decided that it was important for the losers of World War One, which included Germany, to pay uh, for their loss. And Germany, with the insistence of France, was charged 269 billion marks or 33 billion US dollars in 1919 money, which doomed the German nation right from the beginning. Okay, next. The next rate increase happened on May 1920 and lasted less than a year and was for 4 pfennigs or 0.4 marks. And in this example, here's a card that went surface to Venezuela. Okay. As you can see, the idea that the rate periods in Germany lasted only a couple days or a couple months is not true. Some did, some didn't, and you will see longer rate periods, you'll see shorter rate periods. But as you see, the rates are going up, and the value of the mark is going down because the Weimar Republic, a very weak government situation, did what they could. They didn't want to create any taxes. So what they did was they just increased the amount of money that was being circulated. And in the beginning, that really didn't show much. But as we go quickly on, you'll see the disaster effects. Okay, next. The first reparation payments were made by the League of Nations in June 1921, at first in gold. And when the German government ran out of gold, the League of Nations winners took steel, wood, and eventually food from the German nation, which devastated the economy. It also devalued the mark. And here is the next rate increase. Now we're up to April 1921 to December 1921. 80 pfennigs, which doesn't sound like a lot of money, but if you notice, we've just doubled the rate, in this case on a card to Mexico. Next. The next rate increase and this is to Iceland. Uh, as you can see, went up to 2.4 marks, and that lasted until June 1922. Again, a 6-month rate period. Next. Rates are increasing. Interesting to note that some of these stamps on these cards were only used 10 years before as part of large packages or parcel post. But in this case, they were used to pay the postcard rate. This way, it was to Romania paying 3.4 marks, and that was in effect July 1922 to the end of September 1922. Okay, and as I mentioned before, the Weimar government increased the amount of paper currency it printed to create its financial responsibility, worsening the German inflation. Again, if I had the time, effective German inflation talk might take a week, but I think you'd rather listen to the ball game than that. So we're going to keep this going fast. Okay, under an hour. Okay, more German inflation. Now we're up to 12 marks, and this was from October 1922 to the middle of November 1922, and this was going to Canada. Next. Here's, we have now doubled the rate to 24 marks, going to Argentina, and that was in effect mid-November to mid-December. And again, this is what I enjoy about the Germans when they make rate decisions. International postcards were for almost everywhere, except for neighboring countries. So for me, it was important to find really nice destinations, which I hope you're looking at now. Okay, next. This is a card, and we now up to 50 marks, and this was in effect mid-December to mid-January, going to Yugoslavia. Okay. Now, this is an interesting card. We're now up to 90 marks, which was in effect 15 January to the end of February 1923. And this is going to Egypt. And while the card looks relatively calm, as the inflation spread, unemployment swept the Weimar Republic, and labor unions, the communists, and various small political groups were on the streets of the large cities rioting. And all that the Weimar Republic could do is keep prices low to keep the population happy. It worked for a while, but as you'll see, it didn't work that long. Okay, next. Here's a card to Syria in April 1923, paying the 180 mark rate, which was in effect from March 1923 to the end of June 1923. Next. Inflation continued. This is a card going to Estonia, now at 480 marks, and that was in effect July 1st, 1923 to the end of July 1923. Next. Here's a card going to Argentina. Interesting to note, these are airmail stamps, but because of a uh, a problem with finding correct denominations, airmail stamps, which originally could only be used for airmail postage, was used for, in this case, surface fees. And again, this is going to Argentina. Next. Okay, the German government starts defaulting on reparation payments to France. And in response, France sends troops to occupy the Ruhr Valley of Germany. And they started taking needed raw materials needed for German industry back to France, and the German economy collapses. And this is where we have the beginning of late inflation. And here is an example of postage stamps that were used 10 years before for parcel post stamps. Now they were being used to pay the 36,000 mark rate for a postcard, in this case to the Philippines. But if you notice, this rate was only in effect from 24th to the 31st of August. The German economy was in trouble. So much so that many industries allowed their employees to take paychecks 2 or 3 times a week. So there wouldn't be any problem buying material, because by this time barter was being used, because the amount being charged for items was going up almost hourly. So if the employees didn't give out their paychecks, by the time the next paycheck was given out, their first paycheck would be worthless. Next. Here is a postcard going to Bulgaria on the 9th of September. And you notice we've gone from 36,000 marks before, now to to 120,000 marks. I appreciate your comments. If you could hold them to the end of the talk, it would make it easier for me. Thank you. Next. Now we're going to show a postcard on the 30th of September, which was the last day of rate. And as you can see, we've gone to 450,000 marks to send a card to France. Next. And now we've got a card without stamps. And what the German post office was doing, because they were running out of stamps many ways, they created a hand stamp saying paid in cash or something similar. And in this case, that hand stamp showed that 3.6 million marks paid to get this card from Germany to Australia, and the rate was in effect from 1 October to 9 October. Next. Here's a card going to Yugoslavia from the 10th of October to the 19th of October. The next rate now was 9 million marks. Most people didn't have this, so it was getting very hard to find some of these cards with being sent with stamps. But here I found one to Yugoslavia. And next, this is one of my favorites. A friend of mine said, yeah, it looks like the German economy was going down the toilet. Well, here is an advertisement for urinals that was sent to Denmark, paying the $18 million mark, which was in effect from the 20th of October to the 31st of October in 1923. Next. The late inflation, and this is why a lot of historians have to say that this inflation had a lot to do with bringing about the Second World War. During this rate period, Adolf Hitler led 600 members of what he called the right-wing National Socialist Workers Department, a party, I should say, in an attempt to overthrow the Bavarian government. Hitler was thrown in prison and began writing Mein Kampf. And again, this is a card sent during that period. This was a 4-day rate period. This card cost 120 million marks to send to Sweden. Okay, the League of Nations was getting very, very concerned, not about Hitler, but the communists were gaining power and riding in the streets, not only in the cities now, but in the small towns. And the League started meeting to see what they could do to save the German economy. Next. This is an interesting card that was sent to Romania. It's marked tax per sou, showing that postage had been paid, but for some reason, the people in Romania didn't understand and put postage due marks on it. But the tax per sou marking paid the 2.4 billion marks to get this card to Bucharest, Romania. Next. Now we're near the end of the inflation. The League of Nations knows there's trouble. The government had 2 assassination attempts. The League was worried that the government of Germany was about to collapse. And this was one of the reasons. Here is a card to Italy with 24 billion marks paid to get it to Italy. Okay, next. And here is near the end of the inflation, only a 5-year period. And interesting to note, it is a 48 billion mark card, and it's overpaid by 2 billion marks. And you'd think 2 billion marks, damn, that's a lot of money. But if you check the Wall Street Journal, the 2 billion marks was worth about a penny and a half in US money. So we call this a convenience overpayment. And I don't think they could have put 48 billion marks on the cover anyway. Next. The late inflation, the economy was in ruins, so much so that the Weimar Republic stopped printing stamps. And what they did is they sent out a rule saying any stamps you had were now worth 4 times face value. So here is the last period during the inflation period to Finland with 192 billion marks. And that was in effect from 26 November to 30 November, which was the last day of inflation. The British and US government stepped in and said, all right, we will back the new mark, which they called the Rentenmark, with gold. And because of that, December 1st, next, the new Rentenmark was issued. And here is a card going to the United States on December 17th, 1923, with the 0.2 rented marks, which equaled 200 billion old marks. This rate was in effect for the month of December. It's very interesting to try to find the old mark during the new Rentenmark period, but if you do, you've got something very nice. All right, this is a very quick overview of the German inflation. This can go into many, many aspects because, to be honest, the German economy was in chaos. And the German government divided many parts of Germany and the German postal system into districts. And each district created their own perforation marks, sometimes their own stamps, and there was absolute chaos. There is a story which I don't know whether it's an urban fallacy, but I think some of you might have heard of it. There was a farmer who came into a small town with a wheelbarrow of old marks to try to buy some food. But, you know, it was a hot day and he put the wheelbarrow with marks in front of a bar, walked into the bar to have a beer before he went to buy the food for his family. When he came out, the marks were there, but someone had stolen the wheelbarrow. So that shows how bad the economy was. But the government of the United States and Great Britain saved the German government from losing its Weimar Republic and going into a communist state. But the French government insisted that they wanted their punishment for World War I. But finally, the League of Nations said, all right, enough is enough, and stopped the reparations at this time. So again, this is just the surface of the German inflation. But I thought it would be interesting for you to see what the post office did, at least with this one rate group, to keep the post office going. But the bottom line to all this was the Weimar Republic's policy of creating more and more printed money without anything backing it was what caused the inflation, along with the French and other organizations insisting on reparations. And a lot of this reparations was material that the German people needed to survive. Okay, any questions? I'll be more than happy to oh, before, please read this. Pearl Buck is one of my favorite authors. She did a lot of work in China, but she visited Germany late in 1923, and I think this one paragraph sums up what the German nation was feeling. And quote, the cities were still there, the houses not yet bombed and in ruins, but the victims were millions of people. They had lost their fortunes, their savings. They were dazed and inflation shocked and did not understand how it had happened to them and who the foe was who had defeated them. Yet they lost their self-assurance, their feelings that they themselves could be the masters of their own lives. If only they worked harder, and lost too were the old values of morals and ethics and decency. And because of this, people in Germany were looking for someone to blame. Some blamed the Weimar Republic, some blamed their political leaders, some blamed the communists, some blamed the people who beat them in the war, and unfortunately, many blamed the Jews for allowing this to happen. But it did happen, and for those of you who know your history, as we move on from 1924 and onwards, small parties gained power. A few gained lots more power, like the communists and the Nazis. And the result was Hitler taking power by 1933. Okay. Any questions? You're all stunned. That's excellent.
We will go ahead.
Actually, can
Everyone,
you hear me?
if you have questions, please go ahead and you can either put your questions or thoughts in the chat at this point, if you will, or you can go ahead and raise your hand and we'll recognize you. In the interim, if you will, keep yourselves muted until you're recognized. That way we'll all be able to hear what everyone has to say on both ends. let me get my screen together here so we can kind of go from there. First off, there are a couple of questions for you or comments there, Jeff, in the chat right now. And let's see, Kent writes, by this time in August 1923, who could actually afford to send a postcard? Mail from Germany must have dropped off considerably. Do you have any idea as far as what the mail volumes might have been before and then during the inflationary period there, Jeff?
Well, one of the reasons I chose this international rate is very few cards left Germany during this period, especially from August 1923. So I've always been into a challenge. So finding this material is very, very difficult, especially those going away from Europe.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, very few went out. There were people who did very well during the German inflation. They were the people who had gold.
Mm.
And if you had gold, you could have gotten very rich during this period. But most of Germany, no, they were on a barter situation, and I have no idea how much it would have cost, how many chickens it would have cost to send a postcard uh, to the United States.
Yep, certainly. And as you point out, too, mail that was sent to places outside of Germany, a non-domestic mail is much more rarer, if you will,
Yes,
than domestic mail there within Germany.
but also business did continue. So there was international mail, but when you see, for instance, 194 million marks, the reality is the 194 million marks only equaled 7 cents US. So the government tried to do what it could, and I was able to find, do some research with the Wall Street Journal, who kept track of how much the mark was worth. So even though it looked terrible, and you may not have had 194 billion marks, it was only a couple cents to mail the letter.
Right. Paul Booth writes here that he knows, and a lot of us worldwide collectors know that many of the German stamps of this period are much more valuable used than,
Absolutely.
than mint. You want to comment on that, please, Jeff?
Yes, yes, you have to be very careful though, because what a lot of the Weimar people did to get extra money after December 1st, 1934, was to go out and do cancel to order German
Hmm.
inflation. So make sure if you are buying used uh, inflation, be careful. I won't buy anything unless it's on a letter. And even with a letter, there's a lot of fakery, especially with some of the uh, special perforations that were done uh, in the past couple of weeks of December 1923.
Hey, another comment that's coming through here from Diane Jarvis. Why, if the U.S. and Great Britain had not bailed Germany out, would they have become communist? Is it because Russia would have stepped in?
No, Russia was having their own trouble and their own inflation. Uh, it was more, Russia really had very little to do with it. It was the labor unions that were on the street trying to overthrow the government. So it was the labor unions, not the Soviet Union.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Let me see, some other comments.
Sorry, just
Yes, go
to
right
add
ahead.
that, if it was the labor union, how would that have stopped the inflation?
Oh, the labor unions wanted to get rid of the Weimar Republic. And by getting rid of the Weimar Republic, they thought it would get rid of the currency, which would get rid of the inflation.
Okay.
So what the League of Nations did through Great Britain and the United States said, all right, let's not get rid of the government. Let's put some gold and back the mark. So we could keep the stability of the Weimar Republic, which had always been weak, but at least it was a stability, and they could continue from there.
Okay. Scott Zimmerman writes in, why does there seem to be such a large portion of mint inflationary stamps? Were they being saved as an investment?
No, unfortunately, if you were investing in the mark, when it went from a couple marks to 192 billion marks, you weren't doing very good uh, for your portfolio. No, the reason there were so many there was the government printed so many, and the rates changed so much that a lot of the stamps were worthless within a couple hours or a couple weeks after being issued.
Sure. All right. Any other questions from the audience? We've got a large group out there. Just wonder if you have any additional questions. If you do, I'll recognize you if you want to raise your hand or again put your question in the chat.
Tom, I have something I just wanted to share with the group.
Go right ahead.
This is a book I found a few months ago, and I've read most of it. It's called Germany 1923 by Volker Ulrich. I
Excellent.
think once we learned that Jeffrey was going to speak, I got interested in learning something more. Nothing about the post office in here. And I looked
Yes.
at the index when I originally bought it, nothing about postage. But it's really a very interesting and well-written background of the political situation in great detail, month by month. And Jeffrey, it really does follow kind of the outline you put together in the context of the stamps, in terms of the kind of disarray in which this whole society had to function at that point. So,
Well, that book is excellent. I recommend it. And I hope if you're interested in this, that you would read books like this, because again, as I mentioned, what I did tonight in 40 minutes is just the tiny tip of the chaos of the German inflation. And I think the more you understand the German inflation, the more you understand not only the period, but how important the German inflation was. And what I need to emphasize is the German inflation was not the worst inflation ever seen. Those of you know about the Hungarian inflation of the mid 40s, or even during modern times, the Zimbabwe inflation, much, much worse with lots more zeros. But the German inflation, as you might have sensed from reading the last paragraph of my talk, really, really killed the morale of the German nation.
Jeff, in the exhibiting world, there's a classification known as social philately, which
Yes.
this would very much fall into. A social philately exhibit along this line would literally tie in the inflation and the pain those people were experiencing at that time with postal rates and the rate of bread and the rate of everything else that was going on around them.
Yes, I agree. And when I first put this one frame exhibit together, social philately had really just come out of Australia. And people got very interested in it. As a result of this, I also have a 9-frame exhibit showing the first and last day of inflation rates, and which I wasn't going to say anything, but a manuscript has come out of that and is available for sale. I'd recommend you wait for the movie. No, no. Social philately, I hope catches on with a lot of exhibitors because it expands what you can do with covers and stamps, and really make postal history into history. Absolutely.
Right. For sure. Okay, I'm looking through comments here, and we have a number of people offering stamps that they're looking to give away to people who are interested regarding the inflationary period. If you again just go on into the chat, you're welcome to respond to folks there. Let me just see if there's anything else that are on people's minds that we might not have talked about yet. And I think that pretty much covers it, unless again, there might be any other questions out in the audience. Chime on in if so. And if not, let's go ahead and wrap things on up. Let me bring it back to Anton then.
Anton, thank you for helping move my talk along. I really
No problem
appreciate
at all,
it.
Jeffrey. Diane, you're going to do, I think, our announcements first. So go ahead.
Yes, yes. Thank you very much, Jeff. I really enjoyed this presentation. I'm currently working on my German stamps, and that helps me with what I'm doing. So thank you. I just posted the evaluation for this presentation in the chat, and we'd appreciate it if you'd complete it and give us any feedback. If you want to complete it after we're done here, you can just click on it right now. It'll come up in a separate window and you can fill it out after the program. Our next meeting will be on Tuesday, September 16th. And it will be given by Bill Schultz, and it will be regarding Christmas seals. The following month in October, Tuesday, October 21st, we're going to have a presentation entitled The Latest News on Boston 2026. The presenter is still being determined. Tom might be it. We might have another guest. It's up in the air right now, but we'll get that figured out between now and then. So stay tuned on that. Speaking of Boston 2026, we've got some exciting news. One of our other members, Paul, he has been doing the legwork of securing a room for members of LASO to meet during Boston 2026. So mark your calendars. We have Wednesday, May 27th at 2 o'clock. It's my understanding we will have a room for about an hour. This will be, and it might be a little longer, it just depends. We're still working on details. We don't have a room number or location yet. We'll share that in the future. So if you've got any plans to go, this is a way to get together as the LASO membership and get to see each other in person. So we hope to see you there. You can find a full list of our upcoming programs along with the recordings of any programs you might have missed at learningabout.stamps.org, and you just click on the programs and it'll bring you right to it. And I think that's all the announcements I have.
Thank you, Diane, very much. Good.
Uh-huh.
And thank you for mentioning Paul's work on this. He's done a great job getting us that room.
Yes.
And we're looking forward to it. I'll tell you what, ordinarily at this point, what we do is we turn off the recording, which I will do in a minute. I want to thank everybody for coming. By the way, we're turning off the recording. Doesn't mean you have to leave, because if we want to sit and chat a bit more, we can do that. By the way, we learned a lot of things tonight in our pre-meeting. Diane is from the smallest town in Manitoba, not Manitoba. Yeah, I guess Manitoba. Is that right, Diane? Yeah. Where polar bears outnumber citizens. These are little things we discover in the course of these conversations. So if you want to hang around and chat for a few more minutes, we're going to do that. But let me at this point thank Jeffrey for a wonderful presentation. Jeffrey, nobody wanted to go to a ball game tonight. But then again, the Yankees Boston weren't playing, but I don't know what would have happened then. But
Well, as a resident of Boston, we don't want to go to Red Sox games either. So,
well, in any case, I just want to
Yes.
thank you. And I want to thank everybody else for coming and asking some great questions. You guys take care. Have a good evening. I'm going to turn off the recording.